Now I would like to introduce our next speaker, Verena von Beckerath. She's a Berlin-based architect and co-founder and partner of the architecture practice Heide and von Beckerath. She grew up in Hamburg. She pursued cultural studies at the Sorbonne in Paris, as well as the University in Hamburg. From 1992 to 1997, she studied architecture at the Technical University in Berlin. From 1992 to 1998, she taught at University der Künste in Berlin and was visiting professor at the Technical University in Braunschweig from 2010 to 11. 2 years later, Verena received a fellowship at the Villa Massimo in Rome. 2014, she was invited as a visiting critic at Cornell University. And just along the way, 1906, she founded an architecture practice with Tim Heide, with whom she had worked on various projects before, until 2008 in partnership with Andrew Alberts. Ever since, they have worked as a duo. Heide von Beckerath is dealing with space as a major challenge for their project in different dimensions and scales. Their work comprise urban design, architectural projects, interior design, and conceptual studies. Just lately, they have become widely known and highly acclaimed for their co-housing projects Ritterstraße 50 in Berlin, for example. Affordable housing, comparative low-budget project that aim at the inclusion of users is the planning process high on their agenda. Projects that create intelligent space, various individual solutions for the users, as well as communal areas, mixing the inhabitants and reaching out into the neighborhood. Verena, just recently, in February, became professor at the Bauhaus University in Weimar. This for German standards rather unusual university is proud of being part of the democratic tradition of the Bauhaus. Is it still paying off today? Is the democratic element still alive? So Verena von Beckerath's approach to academic training in architecture, which has evoked our curiosity. Please welcome Verena. Schauen wir mal, ob das passt. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Julia, for this introduction. I was happy and also a little bit excited to be asked to talk about education. On one hand, I was always interested in education. I raised a son and so on, but I'm a daughter. But on the other hand, education is such an important theme and topic and such a challenge, and it's all about interest and ability and encouragement. And I'm very proud to be part of this academic system at Bauhaus University since October. I started in October, so officially since February, but October. And I decided to give this lecture especially on my work there. So it's a kind of reflection on what we did. I will now switch to we because of course it's not only me, but there's a team of people, as you will see. And I called this lecture From Elements of Domesticity to Forms of Community. This is, in the German version, also a title I have chosen for a lecture series where we invite people, but also I give own lectures from time to time, and always in the winter semester. I will start with a kind of little personal story. This painting is by Eduard Gärtner. He was a painter in the 19th century, famous for his city perspectives of Berlin. You might know the famous painting he did from the flat roof of the Friedrich-Werdersche Kirche on Berlin. This one is less famous, maybe. It shows a Biedermeier environment, an interior, and a family. It's the family of a locksmith, whom you can see on the right side. I think he was a friend of Eduard Gärtner. And you see different family members. We can all recognize them by their roles they have on the painting. And I saw this painting for the first time when I read an article in 2001, 2002, when my own child was still little. And I was struggling a bit with profession and family and partnership and raising a child and so on. And this article was about, it was mentioning the difference between the small nuclear family that we are today, or have today, or create today, with father, mother, child, and maybe a second child, and the kind of more larger entity of family, like it was, for example, in the 19th century, where the roles were clearly you could see the roles clearly, and of course, I was very critical about it, but this was all the article was about. It was, on one hand, recalling this familiar situation, on the other hand, asking for new models of living together, and yeah. The second image is the space where I'm teaching and researching. This is Bauhaus University in Weimar. The photograph has been taken by one of my students, and it's a very intimate school, a small school. It's also a small city, but it's also a small school. And, but it creates a certain density of persons, ideas, biographies, history, and so on. And this is what I really like and what I want to talk about. So I have chosen 3 parts, what I want to focus on. So 3 different approaches to teaching, and each focus is related to a kind of duty that we have. So artifacts will be connected to the 3rd semester basic teaching engagement. So we always have a 3rd semester in the winter semester, which is a more kind of foundation course. And when I started in October, I thought it would be really interesting to start with something that is really nearby, that lies to your feet. And if you cross the park at the Ilm, which is a beautiful, really beautiful park, you might reach the Haus am Horn, which was a model and prototypical building from 1923. And it was not only prototypical because they use new kinds of fabrication, of building with elements, but also they created furniture with students from the Bauhaus. And I was always interested in the floor plan of this house, because even though it is a one-family house, you can see that it's organized quite differently. So there's no hierarchy between certain functions, but instead all the functions are kind of rotating, circulating around a kind of collective space in the middle, which of course was the living room, but I like to see it as a kind of model for how do we really connect certain activities while thinking about housing and teaching housing. And this is one of the contemporary photographs. The author is not known, but it shows the room of the woman, the lady's room, with furniture. So what we asked the students is to make a drawing of the house. So we went there, we looked at the house, we took photographs, they took sketches, and we had the idea that they would all do the same drawing, but that they would choose what to draw. So the drawing was fixed. The edges and points, it was 1 square meter of paper. They had never drawn this way, 3rd semester. So they all did the same drawing, but in the end there were so many different drawings, and we were really excited about it. So the task was to do an axonometric drawing, but to choose one element and to relate it to the central space. And while choosing the element, they would discuss questions like, what is a children's room, what is playing, what means kitchen, what was it, what is it today, and so on. So here, these students have chosen the children's room. I'm showing you only some of them, but they are all beautiful. This is about the kitchen. This is about the windows, interior windows and exterior windows. This is about doors, connections, and openings between different spaces. This is about inbuilt furniture, because this student found out that the inbuilt furniture is especially where the man's bedroom and the woman's bedroom are connected with the bathroom, so there's a kind of clustered inbuilt furniture. This is about the color system applied to the house. And this drawing is very interesting because we had one student who didn't study architecture but urbanism, and he never did a drawing before. And he was really trying to learn how to do it. And what was different about him, that he had the idea of bringing a social issue to the drawing. So he was looking for the guest. If there would be a visitor coming to the house, what would be the spaces that the visitor would be offered to? This is a drawing I also like very much because this student has chosen the basement to find out more about infrastructure. And this student decided that what he was looking for couldn't be shown in one drawing, so he did another one, 2 instead of 1. And here are 2 students who asked us to draw something else. They wanted to draw the floor plan of the Alva Alto apartment in the Hansaviertel, because after studying Haus am Horn, they said that they had found out that the Allraum concept of Alva Alto was very similar to the Haus am Horn. And then we asked them, you're the 2 of you, why don't you do both drawings and relate the drawings to another? So they had to change the direction of the Haus am Horn drawing, because otherwise the relationship would not be that interesting. So what do I want to say with this? We try to work in a kind of semi-structured way. So we give them some instructions, but then we really encourage them to think about the instructions, and we are very happy if they are better than the instructions were. The next step was we invited a photographer, Andrew Alberts, to give a kind of very short workshop of 1 week. Andrew Alberts was our office partner until 2012, and I'm very close friends with him, and since we are architect and photographer and have different professions in a way but share the same ideas, it's really interesting to work together again. So we invited him to take photographs, but also to instruct the students to also take photographs and then to build models from the photographs. And then again, he took photographs from the models. And I will just show you some of these photographs of the models, of the photographs. Okay, 10 minutes, not 5. Okay. No, this is a serious, I'm fine. Just look at it. This is quite interesting because this student decided that the ideas applied to Haus am Horn also are connected to the Plattenbau Siedlungen. So they took the systematic approach from the small house and created a bigger house. Here you can see the models that we destroyed afterwards. And we are very interested and also excited about presenting these 2 steps during a conference next week at the TU Berlin, 2 weeks. And also very proud of the students because they are all invited, and The next topic is peripheries. I'm not really sure about the word because it could also be urban peripheries, it could also be metropolitan areas, and we're not yet sure what it is, but I'm quite sure about one thing. We have done some housing projects in the inner city of Berlin, and with my office, and we feel that we now have a certain experience how to do it. And I think I have no experience in dealing with areas where there's less context to refer to. So we applied with a master's course to take part in a competition organized by the Development Bank of North Rhine-Westphalia. And we were located in the area of Bielefeld, exactly Herford and Gütersloh, where there are former military barracks from the 1930s, and the idea was that the students should find out, or we all together, how the housing problem of Bielefeld could be solved within the military barracks of Herford and Gütersloh. So we invited Andrew again to accompany us with the excursion, because we had the idea that something would happen that we couldn't really capture maybe ourselves. So this is Kunsthalle Bielefeld, it's always pairs of photographs, led by Friedrich Meschede, very interesting museum. And this is the University of Bielefeld, also a large building, a huge, one university, one building with an inner street, amazing to visit. And this is the inner city of, I think it was Herford. And this is also the inner city of Herford, 100 meters next to this one. And we found out that in this area, everyone lives in a one-family house, and that it would be really crucial to think about how a more urbanized, collective, communal way of housing could be realized, and also how live and work could be offered in this area where work and live is really separated. This is one of the signature buildings. We are in Gütersloh again, quite a new signature building. And this is the old city hall offering great auditoriums, but it was not enough. They needed a new building for theater next to it. We found the old one quite interesting, but yeah. This is Bertelsmann, the offices, because we also wanted to look at where do people work, not only where they live, but also where they work. And this is also Bertelsmann, and I've chosen this photograph because you can see the thousands of cars in the background, because those places don't work without parking. And this is a very strange workplace. It's a meat producer, and there are a lot of migrant workers working there, and they use this entrance, not the other entrance. So this entrance is for migrant workers from, for example, Romania. They come with small buses. You can see the buses because you can see the Romanian, and we were really scared. And this is one of the military barracks, and this is the other one. And here you can see that it's clear that it's from the 1930s, and that it would be really difficult to work with it. And here you can see that there's a lot of infrastructure left over from the military use. And this is the so-called Kloster on the Raketenstation Hornbruch, where we had a workshop discussing all those topics, and a kind of leisure environment next to it. So I'm showing you only one project, only to give you an idea how we worked. So this is the site plan of the Gütersloh military barracks. It's already the project, but what you can see, most of it is the existing barracks, but you can also see that there's agriculture, which goes back to the history of East Westphalia, and all those one-family houses. And this group of students, they were 5, they decided to take some of the barracks away, add new barracks, and to introduce agriculture to this new kind of living area, which would be more communal, more collective, and also connected to work. So I show you some more pictures. And the one that I like most is this one, because it goes back to it shows the military barracks, but transformed into something else. And here's the jury at the end. It was a competition. And you see Andrew Alberts to the left. You see Sigrun Langner, who is a professor for landscape architecture. We invited her to give an input. You can see Verena Schmidt, a partner at the young Berlin office, Tele Internet Café. Jan Kutschera, who's doing his PhD on post-war architecture. And this is the other picture I wanted to show to you, because it's the students who are so concentrated on their work, but also on what is being discussed at this jury. And I once have to say that I feel that it is such a privileged situation, how we study, how we work, how we learn, and how we teach. And the last focus is on a project that we are still working on. It's a one-year teaching research project that we offered. It's something that didn't exist before. We took several modules, we put them together to one project. So it started with a seminar, then there was a 14 days travel to Japan, and now the same students are working on a studio, on design work. So I skipped this one. Again, it's a little bit semi-structured, because when we started to work with them, we told them, we have no idea what you're going to do. We haven't been to Japan. Everything will be changed afterwards. So we give you 6 chapters, and you might work within those chapters or go beyond. And the chapters were reflections, projections. We referred to Roland Barthes, but it's not so important what is behind. But the method is maybe more important. The Japanese house, Bauhaus in Japan, the commons, crafts and treasures, and Little Tokyo. And I'm showing just a few projects. We produced a catalog. This is from the catalog. So one group of students tried to learn as much as they could. They collected so many images, they saw so many films, and they produced a kind of multimedia installation at the end of the semester, because we had a little exhibition. Another student was really interested in photography in Japan from the 1950s, and he worked on certain photographic positions. Another student compared 3 artistic positions in their relationship to everyday culture from Japan. One student studied photographs by a Berlin-based photographer who produced a book on Japanese bathhouses, and in the end she built a model of a kind of ideal bathhouse, because there are some rules and some differences. One student was interested in the crafts topic, and she went to Berlin and she did a documentary on a young Japanese ceramist, and this is a still from her film. And two students were really interested in the relationship Bauhaus in Japan, and they especially followed the biographies of 2 Japanese students who came to the Bauhaus in Dessau. They married before, he took her name, this is why her father sponsored their studies. And the last photograph shows our group of teachers, researchers, and students in a house that Iwao Yamawaki built in Tokyo, together with the daughter and granddaughter of the artist. You see them here, the Migishi family, and a local architect who was interested to join us. Thank you very much.